I'm Diego Cordovez with Adam Schoenfeld. Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. And Mike Matusow doesn't need a lot of introduction, but we've known him for a while. He wanted to come in, and I think we're going to cover some new ground with him. For a guy who's on a lot in interviews and on ESPN and on our shows, there's a lot more to him, and
we can't
get into it.
You got to handle Mike. You can't let him come in here and run over us. We're going to handle him.
He's got 10 seconds for each answer.
He will answer in bites, and I will control him.
But I wanted to see the real poker side of Mike, which sometimes gets lost, and talk to him about the fact that he's gone through a lot of changes in his life recently, and he's really open about what's going on.
He's a super interesting guy within reason. You got to keep him in line.
So who knew that you were a Deuce to 7 expert and you won the Deuce to 7 bracelet, which is one of the most prestigious ones just by nature of the field?
I played it 2 years ago, finished 11th, made a crucial mistake, a crucial bluff against somebody that I should never have tried to bluff.
Who was?
David Williams. And I thought I had gained enough respect at the table to make a big bluff on him. And it was basically, I felt he was weak, and he stayed pat, and I stayed pat behind him after making a huge re-raise.
Which is a very strong move,
right?
To stay pat after a guy who stays pat.
Right, and now he checked, and I moved all in, and he had no problems calling me with the 10-9-8-7-6 deuce. 10-9-8-7.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
A slightly roughish.
Like an absolute couldn't beat
all he can beat is a bluff because he's got the roughest 10 possible.
Right, and so I made that mistake, and out the door I went, and it was.
Did you ever talk to him about the hand, about what he... Because obviously he's got to put you on a bluff from...
He don't put it on anybody after. I just came to realize that David you can't bluff David Williams, And once I mean, he's gotten much better, of course. That was 2 years ago. But he still is not the type of person you really want to be bluffing.
Was that the first time you played the deuce?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had never even played the deuce before. And what I learned the most about that tournament is the fact that it's a position game. And it's a game of reading. And... I wanted to play it last year, but it came at the very end of the tournament where I was so tired and burned out.
Right.
And we had the barbecue at Susie and Steve Z's house, and I was just like, yeah, screw it. I'm burned out. I'm tired for the main event. And also last year, I was really struggling with the Rio. I couldn't stand being here. I had hatred for everybody because of what they did with the black box. Phil Hellmuth couldn't see his 11th bracelet. Yeah. All that bullshit.
You're referring to the fact that they had this sequestering. So, like Phil Hellmuth's 11th bracelet, there was no crowd because it was.
I just hated it. It was hard to come here every day,
right.
Hating to be here.
It's much improved this year. Much improved.
And I love being here. And I've already told Jeffrey Pollack this. And even though I still feel there's a lot of improvement to be done as far as giving back to the players.
But the organization is
tremendous.
You have to give them credit for being willing to make some changes, and they'll probably make more.
And the thing is running as well as a 55.
It's pretty smooth.
It's as smooth as any. It's the smoothest tournament. I mean, nobody realizes what they're doing. I mean, they're running rooms that I mean, out of every single room.
It's a 55 tournament circus.
But it's not a circus. That's the difference. It was a circus last year and the year before.
Super smooth and organized.
I mean, there is no circus this year. It's as smooth as can be, and it's
major improvement.
I don't even know how to explain it. That. How well run it is, and when I won the Deuce tournament the other day, and Jeffrey Pollack stayed till 4 a.m, and I'm the only person he's even been there for to present a bracelet, and I knew he was staying for me, and when he presented it to me, I was pretty shook up, and he came to me and he said, I only stayed for you, and it meant a lot to me, but I knew he had only stayed for me, and we had words in the past. Everybody knows that I wear my heart on my sleeve and I tell it like it is. And so, it is a good feeling, Cool. It was a good feeling that
you were honest with him.
That he was there for me. And, wow, I mean, it was just how I really took to playing this game so good is really hard to explain.
Well, it's the same. It's your no limit skills.
It's my no limit skills with less to read. You've
got less information to work with,
I'll tell you where my success was more than anything. I'm not going to go and I'm going to say, wow, I played this so great, and that's why I won. I didn't get that many hands. Okay, I didn't win that many hands. I won this tournament pretty much on my reading ability and one single hand. And that one single hand is right after the rebuy period ended, when I ended the rebuy period with like 75,000, and then I won a couple small pots to get to 91,000, and Johnny Chan had 91,800. And the only two that had more, we all knew, was Todd Brunson from the Ivy table with like 150.
Where they had a lot of rebuys.
Right, and Ivy had like 105.
Right.
And so I think I was like fourth in chips, and I was in like the original plus the add-on plus the double add-on, which is, it's really a 20,000 buy-in tournament,
Right.
any way you look at it.
That's a tournament where if you're at a table that's not doing a lot of rebuys, that's all you can get. You
Right.
get all the chips you
There was
can
no
get.
way I was ever putting in. I mean, as soon as you saw the table, I didn't even know if I was only going to put in more than that.
Right.
You know, but once I got won some pots, what happened was on the first five, I got a little down to like 7, and then I said, well, or they started me with 10,000. Yeah,
Right.
7. So I said, Greg just rebought. Raymer, he's sitting to my right.
Yep.
Nobody else had rebought, but I said, Greg's really just capable of giving me action. So I said, let me put this other 5 up there. And then I got dealt the only 7 I got dealt the whole tournament, which I got dealt.
Pat.
Yeah, I got dealt Pat a deuce 3, 4, 6, 7.
Yep.
And Greg raised and I re-raised, and he called, and now he bet out, and I moved in.
He drew.
And he drew one, and he made an 8-6, 4-3 deuce.
Right.
And that doubled me to 34,000. So that was there. And now the very next hand, I apologize. The very first hand, he got dealt a 9. I got dealt an 8-7-6. He got dealt, and so he stayed pat, and we got it all in 17,000 during the rebuy period. That dealt me for 34. Then the very next hand, he drew to the 8-6 perfect, and now I had 54. And so now I double added on at the end. I had 74, and that's where I stood. But like I said, going back to the one real hand that really won me the tournament was right. I had 91,000, and I mean, I'm convinced that Johnny Chan just completely disintegrated in this hand, and most people think it's not as bad as I think, but it really is if you analyze the situation. I got moved to this table. I've been playing at this table 30 minutes. The worst table I had ever seen in my life. It's just going raise, fold, fold, raise, fold, fold, raise. And I mean, it's every superstar pro, and I'm looking around seeing all these
guys know what they're doing.
And I'm like, what in the hell? And then there's, then I find out we're going to be the next table to break. So I'm just like, oh, thank you, God, right? So somebody at the table says, Mike, you sure talk a loose game, but sure play tight. And I say, I never talk a loose game, and I do play tight, just like that. I go, I never talk a loose game, and I do play tight, right? So now, I mean, this is like, couldn't have been 20 seconds that this conversation goes by.
Perfect setup.
Where, it's not really a setup, it's I'm being honest, where...
You talk loosely, but not a loose game.
Right, but I never played this. Right? So now that the floor man walks over and says, okay, this is the last hand at this table, we're breaking the table.
Okay.
Thank you, God, thank you, God.
Right.
Now, when I'm begging for a table to break, right, is there any way I'm going to get involved with a hand that's not a big hand?
Neither are the other guys.
Right, right.
Think.
So the button raises 3,000. I look down, I get dealt an 8-7-5-4-3.
Right.
Okay? And I'm like, wow, okay. I make it 13,000. Come over the top for 13,000. Johnny Chan in the big blind goes, this is the last hand at this table? But the way he said that, I mean, the way he said it, he doesn't have a 7,
Right.
And he kind of quick raised it, made it 21,000 more.
You think if he has a really big hand, he's going to just not start?
Right. And so now I'm thinking 9 smooth or 8-7-6.
Okay.
But I just go with my gut. I couldn't just mull over it.
No.
I just say, I'm all in. Now, here's the analyzation of the hand. I mean, now Johnny goes into the tank. Now, the longer he's in the tank, the more I'm thinking to myself, I just blew up. Because...
Really?
Because he has to have an 8 at this point.
Right. If he had a 9, he's going to muck it fairly quickly.
I had 13,000 in. We're playing 500 and 1,000 a round, and I just shipped a 91 ball for the 4th raise.
If he had a 9...
It's an easy fold to 9.
Easy fold.
So now I'm thinking, okay, he's in the tank for 2-3 minutes.
It's going to be a close one now.
Now I got 8-7-5-4-3, which the only thing I beat is an 8-7-6.
Right.
I don't think he can mull into. I don't think he can call an 8-7-6 here because he's just got done talking about how tight I am.
That's the equivalent of a 9.
Right.
But is he going to be thinking forever on a smooth 8, or is he just going to?
But the thing, I'm in my. I don't know.
The problem
8-7.
is it's one of those middle ones which you can't beat.
Right.
Right. Well, if he has 8-7-5-4 deuce, I'm beat.
Right.
8-7-5 deuce 3, I'm beat. For sure, he's got an 8.
Right.
Right.
If he's got 8-6-5, I mean, he's got a really. He knows I have a monster. I mean, he's got to know that I have a hand I can't jump over. I mean, I'm not that stupid. I'm not zipping as that. I already was sitting there wanting to put a bullet in my head for putting the 91, the whole thing in there with the
And especially when the table
8-7-5-4-3.
about to break, you're going to go to a sweeter spot.
Right.
Why are you mixing it up now unless you're real?
Well, that's the thing is I know I'm leaving this shit. We all know we're all talking about the worst table in history, and now I just shipped a 91 ball in there.
Right.
Okay.
That's when you're going to a better spot.
And Johnny's got 52,000 behind now. 52,000 is still above average chips.
Yeah.
500,000 plus 50.
He can still work with 52.
It's only 50 big blinds. Okay,
Right,
you think he'll be okay?
Right.
Yeah, especially with his style of play.
And he called me, and I said,
Oh.
as soon as he called me, I went like that, and I said 8-7-5-4-3, and he said that was good, and that was a hand that won me the tournament. Really, pretty much.
Did he show?
He told me afterwards that he had, and when he tells me afterwards what he had, it just makes it even more just the worst call ever. He said he had 8-7-6-5 deuce. And he could have shown. He's supposed to show it because I was all in, but I didn't want to see it because in case he gave the accent
Misread or something. Yeah, there's no upside.
I don't want to see it. You know what I'm saying? And,
That's a good lesson.
And-
for
Right.
people
You
there.
don't want to make the guy.
and I truly believe it's just a hideous call.
Yeah.
I mean, because for sure I have to have an 8. I mean, there's no way I don't have an 8.
The only consideration is just like you said, you were thinking that you had a blow up. You've had blow-ups in the past, so maybe he thinks you're
No
going to
way,
blow up.
man. They're moving this table. They're breaking this table. I have huge
No, but
chips.
maybe he's not factor that in. Maybe he really is just
He
going by
factored
the old.
it in afterwards,
Mike's,
after he told me, after we talked about it. He said,
did he talk about his rationale?
well, he says it was an 8, and he says it's hard to get an 8, and I guess I just didn't take my time to think for a second. And what the thing is after that hand, when you got 180,000 in chips, average chips at the final table is going to be 400. We're just started this tournament. We're 3 hours into this tournament.
Right.
The 4th hour. I didn't have to do. We're playing 500,000 blinds. I'm sitting on 180,000. I don't really have to do much to get myself up to 300,000-400,000.
No.
And I really didn't do much. I just played. After that, I just played late position raising. Mm-hmm. If they drew, I just kept. I just followed. I watched them. I knew when they hit and they missed. That was where my reading ability came in.
Yeah.
I always knew when they hit or missed.
I mean, last year Eric Seidel won the tournament, and I'm not surprised by him winning or you winning in the sense that this is a game of reads, a game of feel, a game of pressure.
I mean, even in the last 3, even though Eric Seidel won it last year, and I mean, Danny Ayala is a great reader and great game of feel. He won it the year before.
Right.
So when I got 11th, so
I went over to watch a little bit. I was playing in the limit hold'em, and but people were kind of buzzing about the deuce. And when I went over to watch, Barry Greenstein had about half the chips, and you and Jeff Lisandro had maybe a quarter each. And I've got to admit, just the fact that Barry really is experienced in the game, and he has half the chips, I thought.
Oh,
he was so far above the best player in the game. It was a joke.
I'm laying, a
But
big number. But what happened? I mean, and then I had to go back and play. But what happened after that? Obviously, something.
well, what happened was is I gave him the false illusion that he could just raise my blind every time, and this is big because he'd raise, I'd fold. He'd raise, I'd fold. He'd raise, I'd shove in. He'd raise, I'd shove in. He'd raise, I'd fold. I'd fold. I'd fold. I'd fold. I'd shove in. See, so his illusion that he was dominating the table was a complete illusion. I mean, I moved in on him 5 times. I never had anything 5 times.
Right.
But because of the fact I folded 1, 2, 3.
He's stealing your blind 75% of the time, and you're getting the chips.
I'm breaking even or getting the chips.
Right.
And this was huge, okay? And that means I never had to play Barry out of position. And if he woke up with a hand, I was going to go broke, but they were never going to run me over.
Right.
And that was the funny thing, the misconception of them were going to run me over. And this is where Lisandro finally figured it out when it was too late. In other words, I'd raise on the button, which would always be with a hand. Mm-hmm. And instead of like Barry never played out of position against me, and you're never supposed to play out of position.
Right.
Jeff would always call, draw 1, and would always lead big into me, or always lead into me. And I would, every time, never look at my hand, would look at him and I would look at him, and I knew every time whether he hit or missed. I picked him off of something like 9 out of 10 bluffs. I mean,
So that was really the key.
that was the key.
That's where
The
you
key
got
was
your
is
chips.
Jeff was playing me out of position against a guy who knew what he had.
Yeah.
You know, one time I let him bluff me when I had an ace, when I was drawn to a 9, and he showed me 2 4s. He tried to bluff me 4 in a row. I picked him off 4 in a row. I didn't think the idiot was going to go. Even though I thought he was weak that time, I said I got to get one up to him.
Is that something someone can learn, or it's just innate to be able to look at them?
I'll give you an
and just make a
idea.
read?
This is one of my most keyest. I like to bring this up to people because this was a hand that I picked off 300,000 off of Jeff's money. I watched him draw. I looked right at him. He looked right at his card, and he went for a split second. Just shook his head for the split second, and then bet 300,000. I said, I call. I hadn't even looked yet. He said straight. I turned over my hand. I had a king. Now, I didn't know I had a king. I could have had a pair of 8s.
Right.
Who knows? I said, call. Now, you can't teach somebody that. It's something you're born with. It's something you react to. I was locked in.
It's also that you were focused and paying attention.
Right.
Someone might see that, but you got to be looking for it.
I was never looking or worried about playing Barry because I never played Barry out of position.
Right.
Every time Barry raised, if I was going to involve with Barry, I moved in on him.
Yeah, you weren't going to take a draw. And
I was never going to draw to Barry out of position.
Yeah.
Okay, unless I had a monster draw. But if I had a monster draw, I'd just ship it on him and let him call and let's go for it. So I never played Barry out of position, but always played the guy I could read perfect out of in position. That was where I won the tournament.
Yeah, that's big. And that's big when you're playing 3-handed. Just where you're sitting in the 3, especially in a positional game like that, makes a huge difference.
I wish I never tried the big bluff on Jeff. I mean, and that was stupid, and I know where I made the mistake and where he picked me off. I think about it and I say, well, I know exactly what the mistake I made, why I got picked off.
But a big win. I mean, I don't know that people even realize that you've won 3 bracelets now. You won a bracelet in No Limit Hold'em, you've won a bracelet in Omaha 8, you've won a bracelet in Deuce to 7. 3 pretty different disciplines. You've made the final table of the main event twice in this new era, the era of gigantic fields. You ever think that your whole persona and all the camera time that you get just for needling people or playing around detracts from people's impression of you as a poker player? If it was someone with a different image, they'd be saying, this is one of the elite great technicians who knows how to play all the games and knows how to play tournaments.
Well, amongst my peers, I'm very respected.
Mm-hmm.
The Mike Matusow thing is more of the ESPN turned that into. I really never talk a lot of crap to anybody if I don't know. Matter of fact, I don't say anything to anybody I don't know.
Well, Greg Raymer, you talked a lot of crap.
Well, no, I talked crap to him before I ever thought he was going to win a tournament. This was with the 80s.
Hold on. You do talk crap, but
not to people I don't know.
On occasion.
No.
But the famous thing that ESPN built up, which was when you said...
Well, he kept coming after me.
Right.
He kept coming after me, and we played for hours and hours. I said, and that was, they asked me what my biggest embarrassment was in poker. People always ask me, I'll say, well, that Greg Raymer thing, because I played up to the camera. I saw the cameras coming up, and I played up. That's the only time I've ever played up to the cameras in my life.
That's not my impression that you do. You're yourself.
No, you are.
But that time I did.
Because it bothers me, these guys who play up to the camera. And
That bothers me too.
No, because
you're just the way you are.
Right.
You're legit.
To your point, I think that Mike paradoxically is underrated for his poker skills.
Well,
But
that's my
people who are
point.
like inside know that
I'm not
he's
really
super
sure
good.
about that. I mean, I was on everybody's fantasy list this year. I mean, I've made 2 stud 8 or better final tables. I mean, I've had a chance to win. There's not many people that have really been I've been on the final table of, I think, every single...
You're citing accomplishments, but I'm saying because your image is so big, and that's done well for you, by the way, and I don't blame you for that, but you're a super technician at poker and really good at No Limit, and that's a rare skill set.
Right.
So your image has done well for you. On the other hand, it's actually hurt you in some ways too, because you had famous blow-ups on many occasions, but now you're starting to get away from that.
I got good medication now.
I think there are public people, to Adam's point, that they really see you as kind of the showman, guy who's won some tournaments, but who's basically kind of an erratic character. I mean, the other thing is, not only have you succeeded in all these different games, but when you talk about poker, when we've talked about poker, you really think about poker. I mean, you really think about the plays you're making. You analyze. I mean, you've got a reason for everything you do. It's not just, hey, this guy goes in, he tries to run over the table, he's real aggressive. I just feel like people's image of you is not accurate.
Yeah, I know it's not, because I have this image of aggression, and I'll be honest, I don't know if I should tell everybody this, but I play tight.
We know, you're a super solid player.
You know, I'm solid,
yeah.
but if the table's going to be weak, I'm going to get aggressive.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, let's go back. Let's look at the Omaha 8-Better tournament 3 days ago. Okay, you don't hear me. I'm not egotistical about anything in poker. Do I believe I'm the best tournament Omaha player in the world? Yes, I do. Okay, why? Because I understand when to lay an ace deuce dry down. I understand when to lay an ace 3-4 queen down to certain spots.
I think one thing just to interject here is that Omaha 8 is one of the games where live play and tournament play are as different as possible. This is one of the adjustments that some games play very similarly and some don't. And I don't think there's one that has a wider difference.
There is none with a wider difference.
A lot of people don't understand that. And I see guys who, without a doubt, are winning, probably big winning Omaha 8 players, and they're not making the right adjustments in tournaments. And you understand how to, I mean, not that you're not a good live player, but you understand how to win tournaments, which not everybody does. Daniel does too, for example.
Yeah, I'll give you an example of a couple hands from the Omaha 8 final table the other day. David raises up front, and everybody folds to me. And this is the first ace.
Which David? I'm sorry.
Benjamin.
Thank you.
I mean, I just had him. If I ever caught a card, it was going to be a free for all for me. I mean, he was just going to he was just so reckless. So, but
he's used to playing the pot
well,
limit.
he's playing Omaha 8-Better like he's in the biggest cash game, and he's just drawing for every nut low. And he,
you know, and a lot of times when those guys play the big cash games, they're playing short-handed, which is a lot different.
Right.
I mean,
but he was playing like he was playing a short-handed cash game.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and it's Omaha 8 is a lot different full ring than another big.
But the thing is, if he gets picked off 2-3 hands in a row, he's done.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was where I'll go back to these two. I'll use these three hands as an example. He raised. I see my first ace in an hour. It feels like I have 1, 2, 5, 9. It comes 7-4, Jack. I check. He bets 50,000. I call. Come a 4 on the turn. I check. I have 200,000 left. I fold.
Okay.
He shows me, and if I had the crowd laughing, I go, "Let's roll the dice, right?" And there was only one roll I was going to. If it came up all in, I was going to call 100.
Right.
If it came up anything else, I was folding. So I had the crowd laughing. So I folded. Okay. Now people don't understand. I've got 150,000 in the middle. I've got 200,000 left. Okay. I've got to put in 100 to draw for 150. And if he has ace deuce also, I have no draw for high. I'm completely dead. Yet, with the blinds now, with me, that was my big blind. Now I got the small blind next of 25,000. I have 200,000 left. Mm-hmm. Okay, something good could happen with that.
Right.
Right. So now, I go to the small. I think I don't know if I got my money back. To make a long story short, I have like 225.
Okay.
I raise it up to 100 from like mid position. I have ace, jack, jack, deuce, double suited. It was the best hand I had seen probably all day. David calls because he calls every hand. Fold, fold, fold. Now the big blind calls.
He's behind you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now the flop comes ace, 5, queen with 2 spades. The worst flop in history.
Yeah, terrible.
Big blind leads out. Okay, I have 125,000.
The big blind went out into you.
Right. I have 125,000 chips left. There's 400,000 in the middle. There's almost nobody in the history going to fold this hand. They're just going to throw this 100 out there.
Really? Just hoping.
Right. I have 100,000 chips, not 125. I have 250,000. I have 4 $25,000 chips left. That's it. I have 100,000 left. And I said, I can't win. And I folded.
Yeah.
And David calls behind. Turn pro comes an offsuit, jack of hearts. I almost put a gun in my hand.
Right.
Okay. But don't worry, when it's turned over, that jack of hearts made David a straight, and I would have been out of the tournament. So I'm now free rolling this 100,000. I end up getting this 100,000 I think I got 3/4. I get the 100,000 in the next hand, and I get like half of the pot with one other person in there, and I end up having 180,000 going into the small blind, like 3 hands later.
Still playing 5,100.
1,500, a quarter 50, in which I get it all in with ace, deuce, 3, king, with a king 3 of diamonds, and I get David, who calls 3 bets cold with a jack, queen, deuce, 5, by the way.
We were talking about that hand today.
Right.
Yeah.
And I scooped the pot, which I didn't even know I scooped, by the way. It was the most intense, insane hand of my whole life. And now I'm sitting there with 550,000 sitting on the button.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, if I win this next hand, which I don't know if we want to talk about, we can talk about. I mean, if I win this next hand, I got $1 million in chips, and I know I win the tournament.
Right.
Now, everybody else would have been out of this tournament.
I think that's a key point. Diego and I talk about this all the time, is that in a tournament, you can't give up for that last 100,000, even if the blinds are high.
Especially in limit.
A lot of guys just ship it. They give up. You can't give up.
You can't give up. And now I'm sitting there overcome with emotion. I'm jumping around like a madman because I didn't know I even had the flush because David yells queen. I go, oh, you got to be kidding.
Right.
I thought ace king was good. It was going check, 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 check. And when I flipped my hand over and saw king three of diamonds, I almost fell off the chair.
So you hadn't even realized it.
No, it was almost it's a surreal thing of all time. So now everybody folds to me on the button. I got ace 3, 4, 8 double suited, ace 8 of diamonds, 3, 4 of clubs, and I raise it up and the big blind calls. It comes 3, 4 jack with the 3, 4 of diamonds. I flop 2 pair ace 8 and then nut flush draw.
Right.
And the guy check calls me, and I wasn't sure if he had ace deuce, but I thought he might have had ace 5.
He probably has a better low draw than you.
Turn kick him an offsuit deuce. He let 100,000 into me, but he did it quickly, and my gut was he didn't have it. I called 100. I couldn't fold the nut flush draw on 2.
Now in this hand you have too much equity.
And now he bets 100 again on the river, which I could have left. I should have called him. I would have had 175 left. And I changed. I went from my gut telling me he didn't have it to my gut telling me he might have had it. I'll never know. He said he had ace. He didn't have it. He had ace 6 king queen. Which now I really don't believe that because he's not going to call with just a dry ace 6 with no pair because I've been playing with the guy all day and he's as solid as can be. I think because I was so zoned in, he would love to have showed me a bluff.
He had it.
He probably had it. Okay.
It seems.
The very next hand, of course, I get it all in with ace queen 3 6 on an ace king 8 board, and I'm up against Toto's under the gun ace king 6 7 3 club raise, and of course it comes a jack and a 9, and out the door I go. So I gave myself a chance to win.
Yeah.
Okay. When it came to 9 decisions, there was 9 decisions that I was going to scoop a pot, 3/4 of the pot, or split a pot. I went 2 for me and 7 against, and finished 5th.
Well, it's hard to win.
You understand?
2 and 7 ratio.
Now, you wonder why do I keep track of those things? Because I keep track of those things while I'm surviving. I'm wondering. I see when I get screwed on the river and how many times I had a pot. If I go 4 and 7, or 5 and 6, I win the tournament.
Right. Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Write to us at thescoop@cardplayer.com. Mike Matusow has a lot to say about poker, about life, so we're going to bring him back for part 2.
By popular demand,
By
part
popular
2.
demand, and by our demand, we're going to bring him back and keep talking about all this stuff. So join us tomorrow.
Two bracelets. Awesome.
Well, these aren't easy to win. I remember this one like it was yesterday. My opponent had me down to my left. Sorry. Anyway, it's down to my last few chips. So I had to call.
We play at FullTailPoker.com.